All right, hello and welcome to this training webinar. I'm Chris Badgett from LifterLMS, and I'm joined by David Vogelpohl from Wpengine. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Chris. Glad to be here.
I'm super excited to get into it with you today. I think what we're going to present here is really the beauty, or speaks to the beauty of the WordPress community and a couple companies collaborating together in service of the user, the WordPress user, but also your customer and their experience. If you're on this webinar, you're likely what we would call an education entrepreneur, either yourself or you're building websites for clients in that niche. So that could be building one online course or building a more complex online school or training-based membership site, coaching program, that type of thing. We could be doing more traditional education sites for higher ed, even K through 12, also adult learning. There's companies that use LifterLMS to create internal training portals for their employees. There's lots of different ways to use it, but one of the things that makes technology challenging is that with WordPress especially, because it's so powerful and so flexible and there's so many options out there, especially if it's your first time at it or you're building sites for clients and you're trying to be really efficient and use a great tech stack and just master that stack, is there's a learning curve and it takes time. So we're really excited to get into what Wpengine has developed called their Site Templates program. They've chosen to partner with LifterLMS, which we're super grateful and excited about because it's a great intersection of high quality hosting, a flexible, powerful learning management system, and a website that's kind of ready to go and just start moving quickly in terms of your go-to-market. But I couldn't be more excited about this. We're going to share a link in the chat if you're here to the Wpengine Site Templates page. They've included a discount if you get Wpengine with the site templates, basically 4 months free, which is awesome. We'll talk about that more later. There's a link to that in the chat right now if you want to check that out. Please stay to the end. We are going to be giving away a $99 LifterLMS add-on, or if you want something else from the store or you're already a customer, we'll hook you up in a different way. So stay to the end. We're going to select a winner through from the people that are alive or on the line at the end. So stick around. And this is going to be interactive. So feel free to ask questions. We'll keep an eye on the chat. If you're watching this in the Facebook group, drop comments, drop questions. We're going to be monitoring all of that, and we will take questions at the end. Again, I've got David Vogelpohl. He's part of the senior leadership team at Wpengine. Awesome hosting company. I use it personally for my site. I can't wait to get under the hood and start playing around with site templates and going deeper on Genesis myself. A fun history fact, when LifterLMS first launched, our initial software demo was on the Genesis framework. So here we are, full circle. Tony's in the chat saying Wpengine rocks. Everywhere I go, when I at people talk about Wpengine chat support, its support is so important these days. But anyways, David, I wanted to turn it over to you. Thanks for coming on with the LifterLMS audience today. And thank you for what Wpengine has done here with Lifter. I think this is a great service to the course building community. I'm really excited to see where we go from here.
Thanks, Chris. I think, we're excited as well. Really appreciate y'all's partnership in this. And really the objective here with our Site Templates program, and particularly the partnership with Lifter here, is really just to make it easier for people to launch that next digital experience or website. And so I really like how you pointed out for the DIYer, some of the stuff I'm going to demo today is really helpful. But I'd like to also reinforce that for the hardened developer, some of the stuff I'm going to show today can be really helpful. Everybody likes an easy button, and that's really kind of the philosophy behind all this, which is to create an effortless experience for our customers. I'm going to screen share, and Chris, I know you know this, but I have agreed to do a live demo despite swearing I would never do them again. But here I am today, going to do a live demo. I'm going to start on the landing page and the link Chris actually shared there in Zoom chat. I'm not going to really go through the page or anything, but a couple of things I'll point out here is that the coupon is automatically applied in that link, so it will be present when you check out. And then you can kind of go down here and pick the plan that's right for you. You can see the discounts have applied, and I'm going to just choose the single site plan startup. I'm not going to bore you with the sign-up form or enter in any of my personal credit card information here in the screen share, but just to show you there, this discount, it applies. And you can choose, your currency. There's essentially 2 months free for every customer that uses the annual, and then we've added another 2 months for that for y'all here for this webinar. I made my own short URL, Chris, for the same link.
Okay.
Here it is if you really like it. I will go ahead and show this though, because it actually comes into play a little bit later, but literal.co/lifter. All right, great. So I've already kind of walked through the process. I'll go back to that sign up page just to kind of show you where we go from here. Now, as you watch the demo, I have my script here on my left and then the screen here in front of me. So if you see me looking over there, it's because I don't have everything memorized, but we're going to get through it. I practiced this a few times. So once you've entered all your information in and sign up down at the bottom, you will then basically your Wpengine account will be created. When you log into your Wpengine account, this is the home page essentially of the account. This is what we call our sites view. And as you can see, I have a few sites that I've already created. This is literally my own personal account. This is my URL shortener. Remember the URL I just showed, Chris? Remember that?
Yeah.
So I actually made my own URL shortener with WordPress, and you can do the same in less than 7 minutes. If you go to literal.co/video, I show you how. But it basically uses the Pretty Links plugin to turn WordPress into a URL shortener. But as you can see, these are all the different sites I have, including all the test ones I've done leading up to this webinar. So what you're going to do when you have, if you already have access to a Wpengine account, or if you've signed up, is you're going to start by adding a site. We're not going to get into transferable installs, but these are really handy for agencies. But the first thing you need to do, of course, is to name your site. So we'll call this Lifter Live Demo. And then we can select what site group we have. I'm actually not going to select one right here, but you can actually group your sites and you can create what the groups are. So if you have client work or like different brands within the company you serve, or maybe you have different brands yourself. I know a lot of course providers will have like one brand for one type of customer, another brand for another. You can actually group them pretty easily right there. I'm going to leave this one ungrouped though, just because I want to. So now you're at the stage of creating a production environment. So this is going to be your live website, basically. And you can see I can create a new one, a blank WordPress, if you will. I can create one from a template, and that's actually what I'm going to demo here in a second. Or I can copy from an existing one. So if I am a course provider and say or just an LMS site in general, and I want to create basically the same exact site, but for a different audience and with different content, you can actually come in here and copy from an existing one to give yourself an even further head start. And then of course you can also move a site from somewhere else. We have a plugin for that that'll move it right into Wpengine. But we're going to go here. We're actually going to create it with a template. So I'm going to name it lifterlivedemo.wpengine.com. Now, don't worry, you can actually set your own domain for this, but this basically tells us, essentially where your site will live on our platform. As I go down, then I see I have 3 site templates I can choose from. HubSpot includes the HubSpot plugin and Genesis themes. The Genesis site template includes Genesis and a bunch of Genesis themes, and the LifterLMS site template also includes Genesis themes, but of course its key anchor feature, if you will, is the LifterLMS plugin. So we're going to select that. You can actually click more details or read more about that there, but now I'm going to create my environment. Okay, now what's happening on the back end right now is that the systems that provision your websites are out there finding the right server to put your website on. It will then provision it on the server, and then the Lifter site template version of that website will be available. I did this earlier today. It took 3 minutes. think you'll forgive me if I don't wait those 3 minutes to show you the next step. And actually, this was the one essentially created earlier, and it's ready to go. If you don't believe me, we can go back to that later, and I'll show you that it took 3 minutes, but I'll save everyone the time. Okay, so this is actually, this is a new feature for Wpengine that I'm about to show you, and it's the first piece of what I personally feel is magic in different aspects of this demo. So as you can see, I created this site called LST Demo 03, and of course I had some different versions as I played around with what to demo, and this happened to be the one that's ready to go today. And you can see I have all kinds of information about the site. I can assign a domain to it, enable CDN, set up redirect rules, backup points. This is one of my favorite features because you can actually, Wpengine automatically backs up your site every day. You can actually go into here and restore it if you happen to mess up your website. Chris, have you ever messed up a website and wanted to go back to a previous point in time?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm
I
glad
think
you
it's a, I think
told
it's
the
a rite of
truth.
passage. Like if that hasn't happened to you yet, it's only a matter of time.
Oh, if it hasn't happened to you 10 times today, you're probably not trying enough, right? There's all kinds of stuff like access logs, FTP users, SSL. Of course, SSL is free on Wpengine, as it is with most hosts, migration and so on. But this is the part that I think is most cool. WordPress Admin. Now, I haven't logged into WordPress yet at all, this particular version of it, and I'll show you why actually in a second. I'm just going to click this link right here. I'm going to drum roll, live demo. Here we go. Come on.
Ziv in the audience is saying that he used this restore feature yesterday and it saved him lots of time. That's awesome. The other
Excellent.
cool thing is you don't have to call a developer or somebody else. Like you can do it no matter your skill level, you can restore a site, which is awesome.
And of course, it's going to be the first thing that messes up in the live demo. But don't worry, I have a backup, Chris.
It's all good. Sometimes when you're screen sharing though too, it just takes longer. So it could be that. But
yeah, it could be. We'll go in with this HHH install, which I set up earlier. Same kind of thing. Actually, this one might be ready. Let's give it a shot. Nope, it's not ready. I promised you adventure, Chris, and I'm delivering.
it's all right.
All right, if not, we'll go with this other backup. Oh, wait, did it work? It worked, there we go. Okay, yay, okay, we're in. So this is the version that I just set up, this one right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by running the, basically, let me pull this up real quick. Okay, great. So, all right, so the first thing I want to do is to run the Lifter demo. And what happened there is it tried to log me in at first. I didn't wait long enough, Chris. I think you were right. And what happened was it actually dismissed the Lifter onboarding thing, but that's
The
no
setup
worry.
wizard.
Yeah, the setup wizard. And so when I logged back in the second time, when I tried it again, it had already dismissed it. So I'm actually going to go in right now and switch that back. It's under status, right, Chris?
That's right. To rerun the
All right.
wizard.
Yep. This is
Yeah.
probably good for folks to see this.
I believe it's on tools and utilities at the top there.
Yeah, there we go. You're right. Okay. So again, when I tried to log in originally, it had triggered this wizard. And when I backed out of it, being all impatient, it had dismissed the wizard. So I'm going to return to the startup wizard. If you ever want to know where that is, that's exactly where it is. Chris is laughing because I asked him the same question before the webinar. I was like, I just missed it. I need to reset it. How do I do it?
Yeah.
And he showed me here. All right, cool. So let's get started. So this is the standard LifterLMS Onboarding Wizard. It's setting up various pages for course catalog, membership catalog, so on and so forth. I'm going to go right through this. I'm sure you've probably covered this a million times. I'm in the United States and US dollars seems good. I don't need offline payments. I'll go ahead and give feedback, get my coupon for Lifter, and then we'll go ahead and install our sample course. All right, now you see these errors popping up here, and that's because of the 2020 theme, which is the default theme in WordPress. And I'll show you a about that here in a minute, but I just want to show you, this is basically the result of the LMS Startup Wizard, where you can see it's kind of already populated some information relative to courses and modules and so on and so forth. This is the first piece of magic I consider, Chris, which is really what y'all have done with the Onboarding Wizard to help people basically have a sample course ready to go that they can kind of copy and recreate in their own vision and their own voice. But we're going
And I
to
haven't announced this yet. I just want to throw this out there. This month, we are actually redoing this course, this sample course, to be even better. So I'm super
Oh,
excited about that. That's our top priority this month.
all right, good deal. That's
Yeah.
exciting to hear. Okay, cool. So we can still see this little thing up here about our theme, but we're going to change that here in a minute. We're going to see some more magic. But before we do that, Chris, what is one of the first things you do on every WordPress site? I'm just going to throw you out here. It's here in settings. What's one of the first things you do on every single one?
I make the home page, not the blog. That's one.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not going to do that though.
The permalinks,
Permalinks,
the
post
post
name.
name.
Oh my
Yeah, there you
goodness.
go.
Who's out there creating these pages with these ugly URLs? Like, who's like, I need that as default. I still don't understand this, but
And to be fair, Ziv in the audience called it. He said permalinks in the chat.
okay.
So,
Yep,
yeah.
yep. In future states of these site templates, we're actually looking at potentially having settings like this done for you ahead of time. Of course, letting customers know what's happening, but again, it's like, who doesn't use post name when they're setting up a fresh install? Okay, cool. So we got that set up. So let's go look at some of these pages. I'm going to go over here to my notes and copy some URLs. And we're going to see how this looks out of the box with the default 2020 theme in WordPress. And we're going to show you what it looks like after we activate one of these cool Genesis themes. But I want to kind of show you the starting point first.
Yeah, while he's loading that, every fresh WordPress install comes with like the latest 20 whatever theme, which right now is called 2020. And they all look a little different, but they're usually not exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, I don't know too many people that use these default themes, but we're going to show you something that looks much better that's already included and installed in this version of WordPress, the Lifter Site Template, if you will. Okay, so here we see our quick start course, and you can see it's kind of following this, I guess that's beige and red color scheme, and looks okay. I think we can do better though. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back here. We're going to go to Appearance and Themes. We can again ignore these errors for now. Okay, so as Chris pointed out, WordPress comes with default themes. That's the 2020 theme, the 2019 theme, and the 2017 theme. That's a lot of themes. But as we pointed out, the site template also came pre-installed with Genesis, which is a theme framework. It's basically a way of building performant search optimized themes. And each of these themes, Authority Pro, Genesis Sample, Revolution Pro, Monochrome, and Magazine, are all built with the Genesis framework. Okay, so I'm building up to this moment because it's actually one of the coolest things I've got the opportunity to work on since I came to Wpengine. And we're going to activate this theme. If you've ever activated a theme, you're probably wondering like, well, that's not exciting. What's going to happen when you activate that theme? And it's actually pretty cool. So we'll go ahead and click activate. And it's going to bring us to this view, which is basically our one-click theme setup feature.
Whoa.
And what it allows you to do is to choose basically topics and for the demo content that is loaded when you set up the theme. Chris, have you ever installed a theme on a WordPress site and then went and looked at your homepage and it looked like absolutely nothing like the demo?
Yeah, pretty much every time.
Yes, I call that the most disappointing experience on the internet. And for a long time, theme providers had not baked in setup wizards like this into their themes. So, some do now. And when Wpengine acquired Genesis back in 2018, this was one of the first things we tackled in that suite. And one of the things we added is these notion of starter packs, basically that followed different type of what do you call it? a different type of content. And actually, I want to go back because this wasn't my favorite one when I demoed it. They all looked good. By the way, we tested every single one of those themes with LifterLMS to make sure that these default pages, look good, basically without changing anything about the theme. But my personal favorite was I guess the simple version here with Monochrome Pro. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna activate this one. But again, you can kind of bounce back and forth between these, and they change out fairly well, and then you can run these wizards to use a different one on a different website. Okay, so these are the ones I have with Monochrome, which are just minimal, fashion, law firm, photographer, and marketing. Chris, I'm gonna pick fashion today. I wanna start a fashion WordPress course.
All right.
Don't laugh too hard because I'm basically like a ghost from Pac-Man. My entire wardrobe is just t-shirts, dress shirts, jeans, and shorts, and they're all the exact same style, just exact same cut, but different colors. So I'm the worst person, but probably choosing a theme like Monochrome was a good choice for me. As you can see, it's installing recommended plugins behind the scene. It's also loading in beautiful block-based demo content, which we'll see here in a second, and that was it. As long as it took me to make a joke about my wardrobe, the entire website was ready to go. Well, I mean, I've got to put my content in now, but all the pieces are ready to go. So let's go take a look at the homepage. We'll go ahead and view it on the front end, and then I will edit it as well. I need to set up those payment gateways, Chris.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this is my homepage, and as you can see, this was way
Wow.
different than the 2020 theme. The other thing that's really neat about this, which I'll show you all here in a second, is these are all blocks. These are all easily editable by nearly anyone. So we'll kind of go back here into the editor and show you a little bit about this. So as you can see, I can just go in here and start changing text. I can click on the various blocks and change the color settings, change the margin. I can inject, fix the copy, and of course I can inject new blocks. So one of the things I know the course makers really love are calls to action. So notice how I clicked on this layouts thing. This does not come standard with WordPress and Gutenberg. This was actually added by the plugin Atomic Blocks, which was added behind the scenes during that setup wizard. So, just like we've kind of bundled LifterLMS with, Genesis themes with a WordPress install on Wpengine, plugins and themes can also do this kind of bundling motion, if you will, and that's actually what happened when one-click theme setup ran, is Atomic Blocks installed behind the scenes. So I can actually go in here into Layouts, which is powered by Atomic Blocks, and I can choose a layout or a section for my site. So we needed a CTA, right? So I can just grab this, and it's called the hero header, but that doesn't mean you have to only use it in the hero. And so again, I can kind of come in here and customize my home page for basically my course. So go back in here. I'm going to show you a couple of other things before we go back to the Lifter pages so we can see what those look like after the change to the theme. We're going to go to, oh, we're already there, pages. I was like, where's pages at? It's literally right in front of me. And as you can see, we have the pages that were added during the Lifter setup wizard. So this is the course catalog, the dashboard, the memberships catalog, so on and so forth. But we also had pages that were added by the theme, and all of these pages include essentially block-based demo content. So you can quickly go in here and tell your own story, not only in words, but visually, again, leveraging the block editor, leveraging the power of WordPress. We added a contact us page, the home page, which we actually just saw. There's actually a pricing page, so if you wanted to have your own pricing page, I know Lifter has some of this baked into it as well, but if you wanted to have a custom designed one using the block editor, you could easily roll in here and use this as a starting point for essentially building out your website. So there's a lot you can actually do on your own without having to hire a developer, and if you are a developer, maybe you like those easy buttons too, and it'll help you get your next project done more quickly. Chris, have you started using the block editor much?
All the time. I love it. I'm a big block guy.
I like it. It never used to be like cool to be called a blockhead, but I think
Yeah.
it's kind of coming back into fashion. Suppose if it ever went away. What I'm doing right now is I'm getting the pages basically together to look at the course pages or the sample course pages that the LifterLMS plugin did. So if you remember before, we had that kind of beige background with the red color scheme. So now you can see I'm using the monochrome basically style system for this page. And as you can see, it looks much different. Now, of course, the same structure is relatively same. You can see it's kind of laid out, if you recall earlier from the screenshot I showed, but you can see it's actually leveraging the styles of this theme. So it's actually super cool. And if we go back through, we can see another couple of other pages. You know, Chris, I had to do that permalink thing. Otherwise, all these URLs I copied wouldn't work anymore.
Right.
So here you can see monochrome there. And again, you can kind of bounce back and forth between these themes. I can actually share that here in a second. So same kind of thing. What's another one of your favorite pages to show people, Chris, on how Lifter works?
You can go to the checkout page, like the just click on that free.
I
On the previous page.
have that actually here in my list. This page is called a lesson page. So here we see up there's the lesson. I won't play the video. I'll save you that. You're already seeing Chris literally right here. Here's a purchase page. So you can bookmark this as well. Still looking good. And we'll go back.
Dashboard is another popular one.
The dashboard is a good page, Chris, but I don't have anything added to my user.
Oh, that's true.
So my dashboard was blank when I went to demo it.
Yeah, not much in there.
But I did test it before. we did test it before we pushed this out with these themes, and it looks good. But you know, again, I can kind of come back in here into Lifter. I'm not a Lifter expert, so I'm not going to walk through all the different parts of leveraging Lifter. But basically, my site is ready to go. I mean, good chunks of it are already done, and I can start editing this content. I can start entering my course. I can start thinking about my strategy. And I mean, I sat here and talked a lot of this out with y'all, and it's taken me about 23 minutes to get to this point. But as you can see, I mean, I've got a really great starting point. I've got a pricing page, I've got a landing page. Here, I'll go show you that. Again, kind of come in here and make this your vision, edit the page. If you want more color, no problem. You can use one of the different themes, or you can create your own blocks, or you can leverage some of these layouts. Go back there and do this one. And you can just pop in just all kinds of demo content right there ready for you to start editing. I mean, I really wish I'd had this in my agency days. I think we could have gotten projects done a lot faster. It gave customers, frankly, a site they love to use. I think that's one of the key benefits to the block editor is that there's technology companies, of course, like Lifter and Wpengine and Genesis that make tools for this. But of course, the other thing, places I see people doing really cool stuff with are agencies, professional developers, professional designers that are using these tools to make something really special for content creators and marketers. Okay, so we'll go back to our site, just kind of poke around a little bit more, and then I have one other piece of magic. I'm getting through this so quickly, Chris. I know this is like an hour-long webinar, but I'm literally doing all the things I'm trying to do. Like, I'm out of stuff.
That's good. That's good.
But all of these pages have these beautiful block-based demo content. They're all easily editable. Of course, you can create your own custom styles, your own custom views if that's what you want to do. But as you can see, you have a really, really good starting point to get your next project off the ground, and it's super easy to get started. You can see, look, what's missing from the top of my landing page, Chris?
The menu, the header.
The menu, right? I'm in landing page jail. I got to go back over here. You can add that menu back in if you want it there. But you can see, like, all of our themes in Genesis itself, the underlying framework that is used to build these themes are optimized for performance. They're optimized for SEO. Many of the themes are actually also AMP compatible. So if AMP is part of your strategy, we have answers for that as well. And plugins like Lifter, which generally work well with pretty much any theme. You know, one of the reasons that's true is because theme providers like Wpengine and Genesis follow this kind of best practice approach. And so plugins like Lifter can react to that and leverage the styles from the themes to have the best experience possible out of the gate. Now, we actually, of course, went one step further and tested all of our themes to see which ones were the best of the best. And those were the ones we included in the Lifter site template. I'm going to move over now and show you my last little bit of magic. And this is local. Chris, I think you said you used local before. Is that true?
I don't do a lot of local personally, but lots of people around me do.
Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
one thing you may have noticed if you're relatively knowledgeable when it comes to WordPress development was that I was doing all of my changes that I just did on my production environment. And what that generally means is that's your live site. And that's actually a really terrible way to make changes, because even with those backup points, if you mess something up on your live site, you might actually be causing some problems, of course, for people visiting your site. So Wpengine does have staging environments and production environments on the server, but this is actually my favorite way to do this, essentially, especially for the simple sites I have here in my environments, is to basically have a local version of WordPress running on my computer. And what I did prior to the webinar is I pulled down the demo site I made. And what it does, local is a piece of software that runs on your computer, and it runs local versions of WordPress. And the reason that's important is you can play with it, mess it up all you want, and then when you get it into a really good state, you can push it up to your server. And so I can just click here, and you can see how it says lifter-demo/local. That's a copy of that site running on my local computer. And so that's essentially what the software local does for you. And with Wpengine or our sister company Flywheel, you can actually pull down the environment directly to, there we go, Lifter Webinar, and I'm going to pull it to this demo account. I'm not going to include the database just to make it go faster. And so basically that's pulling it down from Wpengine. And then when I'm done making edits, so again, I can go back here to the back end of WordPress. I can make changes, and when I'm done, then I can click this button, which I won't do right now, but it will push the changes back up to the live site. So if you're looking for a little playground even just to play around, and you can use local on any site you host. It's free actually, which is another cool thing. But if you are on Wpengine or Flywheel, it'll kind of push it automatically back and forth. So that was the last little bit of magic, just how quickly you can pull it down locally and work on it. So Chris, again, like we're 32 minutes in, I've shown you all the things. I feel like I should have talked about more of them longer, told more stories.
Well, I think that's the magic of it is if you show up with a Wpengine account and let's say you have like an image to represent your course, a title for it, and maybe 10 videos that you're ready to upload to Vimeo Pro or whatever that you can put inside your lesson content. Like you can get this puppy launched in under an hour, like easy. And it's going to look great. And I mean, you've got to start replacing your content, but I mean, the speed is the feature, David.
I know, right?
So,
I promise, and I delivered. Even with the mess up, I couldn't get the login to admin thing working right away.
yeah.
But yeah, you can see, I mean, just how easy it is to kind of come in and start to inject your own voice in this content. And, you know, again, if you want to add your own pieces of content, no problem, you can do that too. A lot of this, of course, is empowered by the block editor. The things I happen to be using right now are part of Atomic Blocks, but there are default blocks, of course, that come with WordPress. You can add all kinds of, you know, various audio, video galleries, so on and so forth. I really like these because they just have stuff ready to go. So if I'm making my course site and I have my team, I can put my team member names in here. Luckily, my team is already named Kyle, Fran, and Giannis. No, not really. That's part of the demo content, but you can just pop right in here and change them out with, you know, whatever you want. It's probably not someone's face, but maybe Kyle's shy.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's one of the new things coming in our new Lifter demo, by the way, is Lifter has like 15 different blocks that you can use like in the course content to move things around and make it customizable. But like you're showing here, what's super important to a course creator besides the courses and the checkout and the student dashboard is everybody's got to have a homepage. Everybody needs to have a nice looking about page because we don't buy from people that we don't really know who they are or who's on the team or what's going on here, who's behind this. And you need to have a great looking contact page. And, you know, a lot of people outgrow our simple pricing table thing. And they're like, you know, I like a pricing table, but I want to build something custom. The Wpengine pricing blocks you were showing there is perfect. And then the landing pages, what a course creators do for sales. They do webinars. They need like a webinar registration thing. They might have a particular like custom sales page they want to use for a course or a membership that they're doing Facebook ads on, and they want a landing page that's super focused on one offer. And yeah, it's awesome. I just can't. I also wish that, you know, that's what I did before we did LifterLMS. I did agency focusing on membership sites and course type sites, and to build what we just built here just that fast, it's kind of like mind blowing to me that that's here.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 7 years ago. I did a live demo on stage where a buddy of mine and I built a site live in 45 minutes. We practiced over and over and over and over again to get it done. And it was both of us had a lot of experience building sites up to that point, and we barely pulled it off.
Yeah.
And I remember last year we had a marketing event, and not all of our marketers are WordPress developers, right? We have events people and all kinds of other folks who are non-technical. And every single team at that event, because we split up into teams, built their own website using tech just like this within 30 minutes. And not only did they build it, they customized it. They came up with funny little videos to add to the site. I don't know where they found the time to do all this in that 30 minutes. And I remember when they proposed it, I was like, there's no way. It took me weeks to even get it done in 45. There's no way. And they nailed it, no problem, 30 minutes. That's the power of this technology. And if you are a developer and you've been maybe sour to the block editor because you're like, I don't want to use that, I want to hand code everything. Hey, that's great too, because you get to use the block editor in the sites you build for the people you serve, those marketers, those clients. You get to scale your innovation. Instead of every single thing you make only living on one page and never living again, you get to make these componentized pieces of a web page, which allow you to scale your innovation over and over and over again. So they can use that gallery or a specific thing you made on every landing page that the content creator or the client uses. And if you're a stakeholder, if you own a site and you hire developers and designers, you can scale that investment by having them build blocks for you that you can reuse over and over and over and over again. Just like I was getting into the page, we'll go back over to it, and I was pulling up the, oops, where am I going? Okay, there we go. I'm all turned around on all my pages here. Here we go. Okay, now we're in it. Just like we popped down these layouts and had these pre-designed page layout or sections and whole page layouts, you can have your developers and designers create custom, essentially, page layouts and blocks just for you. And so you can scale that investment. So it's not just one and then you never use it again. You can actually have it here in your block library, and you can go nuts using it on every single page you create.
That is awesome. Well, perhaps we could get into Q&A.
Yeah, let's do it.
And let's see. Nasim was asking, can you give us more detail about the Wpengine LifterLMS offer? Thank
Sure.
you. You rock, guys. First of all, if everybody could just type in the chat, happy birthday, David. Today is David's birthday. So thank you, David, for spending a little bit of your birthday time with us today. We really appreciate it. The LifterLMS offer, you can get there by going to lifterlikes.com/WPEngine, all one word. We just put a link to that in the chat. And basically what that does is that brings you to this page. So when you sign up for Wpengine, you're going to get 4 months free. So instead of paying $30 a month, you're paying $20 a month, which is a great value, especially with the the starter content and the integration already there. You can get up and running quickly. Is there anything else you want to say about the offer, David, in terms of
No, I
what
think
people can
you
expect?
hit it on the head. I think the other thing to say is definitely happy and glad and really appreciate the partnership and happy to provide this discount for essentially 4 months free on annual plans. Now, I know that there are definitely platforms and hosts out there that are a lot cheaper than Wpengine. So, if this is a hobby site for you or something that you're not necessarily going to invest in, then a provider like Wpengine may not actually be the best fit for you. Now, of course, Lifter still has its automatic wizard. Of course, that'll work on any host. And then Genesis and the themes we showed you, you can also use on any host. So when people end up choosing Wpengine, they end up choosing it for the performance benefit we provide, the stability, and all of the tools that we include with the platform. And really, it's all designed around speed. And I don't just mean website speed. I mean speed in terms of being able to get ideas into digital reality quickly. And so if you are looking at Wpengine, it's of interest to you, certainly love to have your business, but these tools will work anywhere. Everything I demoed today, except for the site template piece, which is exclusive to the Wpengine platform. But Lifter, of course, as well as the themes I demoed, will work anywhere. And at the end of the day, I think people need to choose the host that's best for them and best for where they want their business to go. And again, Wpengine, if it's about speed and velocity. And so, that's kind of where, how I think about our platform and the value we deliver to our customers.
That's awesome. And Ziv says in the chat that he chose Wpengine so he could sleep well at night. It works fast, and that means a lot. Wpengine is great, highly recommended. We just did an interview with Ziv Raviv. He's a LifterLMS power user. He actually has 3 LMS platforms, and that's a strong recommendation coming from Ziv. Go check out, we'll put a link in the chat. We did a interview with Ziv recently. That's already been early released. It was so good on our YouTube channel. We also have, Dave and I just did a podcast about this. It's not out yet, but it's coming about, more conversation around how this works. So keep an eye out for that on LMS Cast. Thank you for playing along, everybody who's wishing David happy birthday. I got to really scroll to get back to some of the questions here.
Thanks, everybody.
So, what does the in terms of working on the local, is Adrian's asking database changes like new users or orders while you're on on local and you're pushing back to live? Like, how should you approach that or think about that if you may have like an order or 2 or 10 that came in while you're messing with it?
Yeah, we have a lot of documentation on how to do that best, but you actually can exclude the database when you push and pull between those environments. I'm not a pro at orchestrating the database on the user side. I do know we have capabilities around that, user and order side, as well as comments, right? A lot of comments will happen on your live site while you're working on something in local. I'm just not personally the expert at that, Chris, but you can exclude the database whole lock, stock, and barrel, but you can also incrementally deal with that as well.
That's awesome. Sam is asking, basically he's recently switched to Wpengine. So if somebody's already a Wpengine user, can they still find the same area inside their account and whatnot on where to activate, or how should they think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same for everybody. When you sign up anew, or if you have an existing account, you just click Add Site, you name your site. It's kind of nerve-wracking doing that on an air in case I accidentally type a bad word or something, but Hey Ray looks pretty cool. And then you click Create from Template here, and then you could just put your site in there, which didn't copy it, whatever. Okay, and then that's it. Oh, I'm sorry, choose Lifter Site Template and click Create Environment.
And here's a pro tip. Wpengine gets you started and you got these templates, and then over time you can evolve your own template. Like you said, you showed there, like you can start a site from a template and you just keep building, especially as somebody who builds these types of sites for clients. Or if you're like Ziv in the audience who just can't stop and he's making more LMSs and more niches, you can build on top of what you've already learned and your own kind of signature style that you develop.
Yep, so that's the copy from existing basically here. So I can choose, maybe I like that O2 version, so I can copy that and make that actually my next site. So that's the copy from existing or clone a site. One neat thing about choosing the site template version though is that it does automatically install the latest version of Lifter and your themes. And then the one-click theme setup that I showed also includes the latest version of those plugins. And the reason that's important is because if you keep a clone, you have to keep your clone up to date. You have to update Lifter, update the themes if appropriate, or update Genesis or any of the underlying tech. And so by using the site template, you know that you're starting with the latest version of all those. So I do actually use copy from existing quite a bit, but before you copy it, you might want to make sure that the base copy is up to date.
That's awesome. Stan is saying that he will be returning to Wpengine, like a returning Wpengine customer. And he's curious about the offer here today about um, the lifterlikes.com/WPEngine. Uh, will it still work for him? And is Genesis included in that package? So
Yes.
what's the deal with Genesis and Wpengine now? Like, and when did that merger happen, and how should people think about that?
Okay, so Wpengine acquired StudioPress, which was the parent brand above Genesis, if you will, back in 2018. Right when we announced it, we made Genesis and all of the StudioPress made themes. Keep in mind, there are third-party themes in the StudioPress marketplace that we don't own, but the ones we did own, we made available to Wpengine customers, and they're fully supported. You can actually see them in Customer Portal here. If you go to Tools, Themes, you can actually browse all of the themes available. And I am using my Play account, which doesn't have access to those themes. I'll show you them here on the front of the Wpengine website though. So themes, okay. So this account is basically a crusty old account that didn't get access to the themes when we made them available free to customers, and I've kept my crusty old account for reasons that are important to me. And so you will absolutely have access to that as an existing customer or as a new customer, but we do have this public version of the directory, and you can kind of go through here and you can pull up the theme and see what it looks like and then get a live demo. So these themes are not only available to you in Portal, but also supported by Wpengine award-winning support people, which I think is another really great point of distinction. As for the question about he has an old account, he's going to activate a new account, that coupon code will work on any new account. So if he were reactivating an old account, which we don't really do except for, say, through billing, it wouldn't work, but if he creates a new account, it'll work just fine.
You mentioned the AMP thing. Could you just tell people what that means?
Yes, AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages, and essentially it's a standard of sorts that Google put out a number of years ago. And there are advantages for SEO for running AMP on your website. If you're new to the web, I would not recommend you get into it out of the gate. But if it is important to you, many of our themes actually are AMP compatible right out of the gate, so you have to change anything at all about it. Genesis itself is AMP compatible without any modification at all. And so again, AMP may or may not be a good choice for you. One of the downsides of AMP is that certain plugins you might want to use might not work that well or at all with AMP. And really by work, what we mean is be AMP validated. Google has a way to check to see if your site is AMP compatible, but it doesn't mean your website's going to break if you choose AMP and choose a plugin that's not AMP compatible. But that's a little bit of the. They probably do a whole webinar on AMP. I'm sure you probably have.
Right. Um, for the starter packs and switching themes or whatever, like does each theme have its own starter pack options, or how does it? Or and can you switch after you've installed a starter pack?
You can, but essentially what it'll do is it'll rerun the wizard and reload all that demo content. So let me show you what that looks like, and I'll give you a little pro tip on how to use these sites. Okay, so here we see all of my demo content, and it looks pretty chill there, right? And this is O2, so we're going to go back to O2 here, and we'll just activate a different theme. I like the Genesis sample too, so we'll go ahead and activate that one. And as we can see, this one has different starter packs. Now, if I go to the front of my website, okay, so there's the, you can see, I don't know if you noticed, but you could, the theme has changed, and maybe the reason you don't notice is because it's also a monochrome-like theme.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and do Magazine Pro just for fun. So the theme is active now. Like the wizard hasn't run, but the theme is active. So if I refresh my website, you'll see that it changed the look and feel. You know, I use the black text or whatever, which is why I can't see that there, but I can go ahead and edit that. And so the theme is active. Now I can run this wizard again, and essentially it'll install a duplicate set of pages. So if we wanted to have a magazine site about cuisine, If the plugin that it's the recommended plugin's already installed, it'll skip that, so it's not going to install atomic blocks twice, by sake of example. And then now it's got the demo content, so now I can go back over to my pages view. There we go, and we can see I have 2 copies of this now. So that's what happens if you kind of double run the setup wizard. But if you're starting a new site, which is typically when you would use the setup wizard, you can again use that backup point to start from 0 and try it again, or use local if that's what you're using. So you can actually install that theme in some of these local environments and run the wizard, play with it, see if you like it. But if you just want to switch themes, that's no problem. You just have to activate it. It's just that you wouldn't want to run the wizard maybe more than once if you were, otherwise you'll end up with, essentially duplicate pages.
That makes sense. So if you want to like try them all out, you could like build it out, install the starter pack, and then maybe reset to 0. All right, I want to try this other one and do it again. And it
Yeah,
just,
I think it's interesting because themes at the end of the day are not about content. Like
right,
these themes load demo content, which some theme providers can take that far or not as far. In other words, maybe I have a food theme and I want to load in a recipe block into my theme. And
right.
maybe I even want to optimize that recipe block to have what's called schema, which is really good for food blogger and recipe SEO, as well as other things. So there's kind of this blend between styles and content when you start talking about demo content. At the end of the day, you can change out the theme and change the style of your site without messing with the content. So even if you see a starter pack and you're like, well, look, this starter pack was for, actually, I'll just go back to monochrome. Whatever, I'll just use one of these. All right, so we'll activate Revolution. And we can see lifestyle blogger, personal branding, photographer. Well, this demo content really just gives you kind of a faster place to start from. So you have a collection of ideas, but you could make a lifestyle blogger site out of any of these starter packs. It's really just this kind of jumping off point, if you will, that happens to be optimized for that particular piece of content. So don't feel too bound like, oh, I'm going to choose this one and I must do a lifestyle blog. No, you don't have to do that at all. You can take any of these jumping off points and essentially turn them into anything you want.
That's awesome. And correct me if I'm wrong, like it doesn't, Genesis no longer requires a child theme. Is that right? Like Genesis simple, or how does that work?
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about how WordPress works today. We'll talk a little bit about how it's going to work in the future.
Yeah,
So in today's world, Genesis is what's called a parent theme. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but basically it's the underlying guts, if you will, and in our case, the guts that make it go faster and be optimized for SEO and so on and so forth, that power the child theme. So in this particular example, what you're seeing here, Genesis is the parent theme, Authority Pro is the child theme, Genesis Sample is again another child theme, Magazine Pro, Monochrome, and then the 20s, again, as we already talked about, are the ones that come with WordPress by default. So in today's world, that is exactly how it works. Chris, I think what you might be referencing is a little bit of what we talked about relative to the future. And that's where when something called full site editing comes into WordPress, Genesis will likely become a plugin at that point. Now, it'll still serve a lot of the same functions that it does today. It's just that it will be in a plugin format instead of a parent theme format. For most people, that actually is not going to be a huge impact per se to them, except for the fact that we're adding, of course, a lot of features around what's called full site editing. So for those unfamiliar, what full site editing references is basically the block editor. So I'll go back to one of these pages here. Do the content examples because that'll have the most content. I still need to do that payment gateway, Chris. So basically, we can see that we can edit with blocks. We have layouts of sections and pages and so on and so forth. But what we don't see in this view is the header or the navigation of the website. We don't see the sidebar and we don't see the footer. I know there is kind of a footer here, but this is just metadata related to the post, but we actually don't see the website's footer. And the reason is because the block editor doesn't work with the footer and the header and the sidebar. You actually have to add those in via other areas in WordPress Admin, which I'm sure a lot of your readers or listeners are familiar with. And so the future of WordPress will essentially bring this, the block editor will edit all of this stuff up here in the header and all of this stuff in the footer. And Genesis as a plugin is essentially being built to aid people in doing the same kind of things you see here, only for their entire website.
That is awesome. And, one of the big things here, I'm just thinking about for the builders out there, if you build LMS websites for clients, the starter content and the block editor and the packs you have there, with atomic blocks, are super powerful because, one of the hardest things to do is to get content from a client, and then also, once they're done and you do the handoff, have them be able to drive it. And the block editor is getting easier and easier to use, more powerful, more powerful, more powerful. And with this starter content, instead of telling a client like, hey, I need this image for the top of your course creator about page, and then we've got this kind of area where I need a picture of you doing something or whatever, you can actually just show them this thing with demo content and be like, I need an image to replace this. I think just the relationship between clients and website builders, especially in the LMS niche here, gets a lot easier when we have this kind of site template that makes it faster for people to get content from clients.
Yeah, I think it's best when you're, especially if you are in an agency or if you run your own business and have an agency that serves you. In my experience, that relationship works best when both parties work together.
Yeah.
When the client just says, make it pop and walks away, the designers are chuckling, the developers are like, what are they talking about? When they just say, make it pop and walk away, that's not helpful. And when the agency does all the driving, that's not helpful either. Because at the end of the day, you don't really know that person's business like they know it. And so systems like this allow people to work together more, either showing them that starter content or working together and actually creating the content there in the block editor if the client's willing to do that and able to do that. Now, some clients aren't, and that's okay too, right? You can do everything for the client, but by giving them that visual voice. And I think it's also interesting from an agency and freelancer perspective, because it's not just Genesis and Lifter that are doing this, like the tools across the WordPress ecosystem are embracing these practices, but it's easier than ever to get that message out. So when you're thinking like time to market, I got to get that course out, I got to beat that conference I'm going to speak at or whatever, having these tools at your disposal is a big, big help. And again, like everybody likes that easy button as a freelancer or agency, like to be able to do something meaningful, beautiful, and elegant in a day and be able to charge clients a premium for that and know that what you're building them is something of value. That's a huge deal. I mean, it would take me 3 weeks sometimes to make one web page for a client. And in certain cases, tools like this can make, that happen just almost in no time.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. We've got a question coming in from Carrie on Facebook. Can Wpengine powered LifterLMS membership site have a different theme than your main website? And let me answer that and I'll hand it over to David. Sometimes when you're building a site, if you already have an existing site, maybe it's on WordPress, maybe it's not, sometimes it makes sense to build out the LMS on the subdomain or even a different URL and then just link them up in the menus so that people need to bounce back and forth between the old site and then the new LMS part. There's different reasons to do that. One reason is maybe you're not ready to do a full redesign of the entire content site, but you want to be more modern in your LMS. So then you just focus on that and you just put it on a separate WordPress install. And even if, technically those don't even have to be hosted at the same place, it does make sense to consolidate the hosting. But if you're trying to be super fast, you can just focus on the LMS site as a subdomain, or what your business academy.com or whatever you want to call it. That's a way to kind of work around that. Do you have any other thoughts on when to subdomain or not? We actually get this question a lot, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, and I actually did do quite a bit of membership sites and course sites in my agency days, but my information's like 5 years old, so it's probably all terrible advice. No, I'm just kidding. So yes, absolutely, Wpengine will support the model you described. Ideally, if I'm using separate WordPress instances, I prefer subdomains over subdirectories, but you actually can do both on Wpengine, but my personal preference is subdomains when I'm running completely different WordPress instances. Any WordPress instance on Wpengine will work with any WordPress theme, so of course you can use a different theme for that. In terms of like separating the concerns, which I think is the main reason people start thinking about like, well, my marketing stuff will be over here, my membership stuff will be over there. Um, it is nice to be able to let those marketing folks, or if that's you as the business owner, as like a DIY site owner, go crazy on your marketing side and not have to worry about how you might interfere with the membership sides, if or vice versa. Like maybe you have a staff and you have your course administrators, if you will, who are handling the Lifter site, and you want to let those crazy marketers go nuts off in their own install. That's another good reason to do that. Of course, you can like lock users down to only certain areas of WordPress, but that's one reason why people have a separation of concern. The other thing is that if your course were to go down, maybe your website would still be up. Now, if they're both on the same server and the server goes down, well, then they're both down. But that's another reason I've heard, a good reason to, separate concerns with different WordPresses for your course versus your front end.
And just a follow-up question from Carrie. She doesn't think she wants a separate site. So my points on that would be, it's really one theme per site. So you kind of got to make the call to do
No,
a
you
new
can have
theme.
different templates, though. I mean,
That's true.
you can if what your objective is to have a different design for different types of pages. Absolutely, you can do that. And I'm trying to go back. I've got all these screenshots open and everything, just to kind of show you an example of this. But it was really the landing page. Oh, I've jacked this side all up, haven't I? If we recall, remember the landing page, how it did not have essentially a header at the front and navigation at the top. That's an example of a custom layout or design, if you will, for a specific page. So the short answer is yes, you can do that with Genesis or really any WordPress theme.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one more question here from Edmund. How does WP Engine and LifterLMS bill or charge for subdomains? I'll answer Lifter and then hand it over to David for WP Engine.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So for LifterLMS, we just treat it as like one WordPress install for a license or whatever. We actually have built in technology that can detect whether or not you're doing a staging environment or something like that, that you're not, or a test site or a dev site that you're not going to get, that doesn't count against your number of sites. So a single plugin, a single add-on is one site. Universe Bundle is 3-site license or 5-site license, sorry, and then Infinity Bundle is unlimited. That's how it works at Lifter. But how's it work at WP Engine, David?
Subdomains aren't really how we bill. So you would think of it roughly as an environment or what we call sites. I guess other people call them sites too. Within each site, you can have multiple environments like production, staging, and development, basically. And so it's really has to do with the number of sites that you have hosted on our platform. So this is my, remember I told you I had that crusty old account from back in the day. There's davidvogelpohl.com, which was one of the first ones I put on here. There's my URL shortener. And so this particular account, we actually don't sell anymore. It has 25 installs on it, or instances. And so that's how you would think about it in the WP Engine case. If you resolve a domain to it, like literal.co, then that counts. If it was a subdomain, david.literal.co, then that would be one. And if I've created these instances here for this demo, these are counting against my 25 total installs. Again, if I want to play around without chewing up one of my installs, I actually do that in local. Local also has this thing called Enable Live Link, which will allow you to provide links to the site on your computer to other people that you're working with so they can check out what you have there locally. So if I'm looking for like a real quick way to just kind of play around and figure out what I want to do, I'll actually do that here. And then when I'm ready to commit, I'll come in here and chew up one of my 25 installs.
That is awesome. And I just want to say the three reasons that I love Wpengine the most are really what we're looking at here is the live, the staging environment, the backup, the restore. Like it's easy, and I am not a developer, which some people don't realize. So when I make a mistake, or if I want to be a little just test a bunch of things out, but I want the peace of mind that I can just click a button and go back. It's like it's there, and I love that. I think Wpengine does that the best I've seen. um, I love their chat support. I hear people talk about it all the time. I mean, they even say it about LifterLMS. Why don't you guys have chat support like Wpengine? I'm like, maybe one day we'll get there. But I mean, you guys are just known for it, how good it is. And I know you, David, you've said, I've heard you say many times in many formats that you use the chat support yourself. And then
Yeah, it's funny having access to basically anyone in the company, from our CEO, CTO, all the way down the chain. I can reach anyone I want on Slack 24 hours a day, but like anytime I want roughly. I still go here when I have a question. If I'm like, how do I do that thing? And matter of fact, when the themes weren't available to me in the past, I went over here. I was like, why don't I have the themes in my portal? And they're like, well, you have the legacy account. They don't have them yet, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I totally use them. They're quick, they're knowledgeable. They only support WordPress. And for a lot of hosts, that's not necessarily true. They might support all kinds of content management systems. So yeah, I absolutely use them.
yeah. And then the third reason I just add is that now you guys have put Lifter easy button in there along with Genesis with starter content and a bunch of themes that are optimized for that. That is just super exciting to me. So great job with that. I'm super grateful for the partnership. I'm excited to see how the Lifter LMS community uses this. And I do want to, we'll put a link one more time in the chat. It's lifterlikes.com/WPEngine. And we are going to be sending out a replay of this, and it's not going to go away. It's going to be in our webinar library. So if you ever want to reference this, you'll get a replay email since you registered for this, so that you can find that. I'll also put a link in the on the webinar replay page where David and his team have sent over the documentation they have on this. So if you want step by step, like, hey, here's how you do the starter site, and here's how you activate Lifter and all that, we'll have that all linked up. And do want to draw, oh, Kathy just drew it. It's Edmund Del Sol. You are the winner of a free year of one of the $99 LifterLMS add-ons. Shoot us an email to team@lifterlms.com and we will hook you up. Congratulations, Edmund, on that. David, I don't want to keep you on your birthday any longer.
This is the last thing I got to do today. Like, everything after this is barbecue and beer, Chris.
That's awesome. Well, any final words for the people, and also just thank you for this great presentation, and thank you for Wpengine investing in the partnership with Lifter LMS. I'd love collaborating with you guys, and I'm excited to see this
Yeah,
out wild.
thank you for having me, and I think you hit it on nail on the head at the beginning of this. When we think about our partnerships, and I know I've told you this 1,000 times, we ask ourselves how we can help someone else. We ask ourselves how we can help the partner, and then we ask ourselves how that helps us grow. And if it satisfies the first two, then we'll worry about the last one. And so all of this is about working with others to do something better, to enable people to have a digital voice and to be able to get there quicker than ever. So, really thank you for your partnership and providing our customers a reliable answer to, I need to create a LMS or course site in a hurry. What do I do? And, really appreciate your partnership here.
Awesome. Well, that's David Vogelpohl from Wpengine. Let's wish him a happy birthday one more time in the chat. David, thanks for coming. Thank you, Kathy, for helping put this on. And thank you, everybody in the audience, for coming. I appreciate you. Thanks for checking this out. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.